Morning. How are you? Oh my God, you guys sound sleepy. I didn't get any sleep either. So thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you, Adrian. It's a pleasure to be here. So now I'm going to go to some of the problems that I see with traditional teaching methods. I used to be a traditional teacher. I started 25 years ago at Locke High School in Los Angeles, wonderful school. I was a traditional teacher for about 2 years, and then I changed. So this is another quote that I love is from a man named Bill Van Patten. Bill Van Patten is a linguist or a language instructor. He's written several wonderful books on input. So this is one of my favorite quotes from Bill Van Patten. Languages are too complex and abstract to be taught using traditional teaching methods. Languages, they're just too abstract, just too complex. We can't use traditional teaching methods to teach languages. Language is just too abstract. It's just too complex. Too much output, and not nearly enough input. In my class, I speak about 80% of the time. I'm speaking the whole time, 80%. I ask them yes or no questions, and that's about it. I ask them questions that weren't one-word answers, two-word answers, and that's about it. I do ask personal questions, and I do want them to answer me in a complete sentence. In fact, I get them to answer me in a complete sentence. That's okay. When they're doing output, that's fine. But 80% of the time, I'm doing the talking because I know they need hundreds and hundreds of hours of input, not output. So the average textbook, this is something I found super interesting. I got this from my friend Blaine Ray. So the average textbook has 2,700 vocabulary words in level 1. So if you look at realidades or plazas y paisajes or tu mundo in Spanish, it doesn't matter, it could be a Japanese textbook. The average textbook has 2,700 words in the first year textbook. And the average 5-year-old knows 2,000 words after 16,000 hours of language acquisition. Think about that. The 5-year-old has 16,000 hours, and he or she knows 2,000 words. But we're expecting our students to know 2,700 words after what, 150 hours? Ridiculous. Way too much. I acquired 3,000 words in 800 hours. 3,000 words, 800 hours. Right here. So I acquired 3,000 words in 800 hours. That's 3.75 words per hour, and the equivalent of taking 10.5 classes. So that's the equivalent of taking 10.5 semesters of Arabic, or 4.25 years of Arabic. So basically, I took 4 years of Arabic, and I got how many words did I get? 3,000 words. I speak about 3,000 words. I know about 3,000 words. I'm happy with that. That's good. I'm really happy with that. If my students got that in 8 years, I'd be happy too. So curriculums, basically our curriculums are a mile wide and an inch deep. This is what we're doing. We're teaching and teaching and teaching and teaching and teaching and teaching. We're just demanding memorize this, get this, exam this, that, and this. And it's about this thin. It's about this thin. It's not what it should be. It should be short and narrow. So we need our curriculums to be short and narrow. Sweet 16 verbs. We need to concentrate on those sweet 16 verbs and just pound them over and over and over again, but in a fun and natural way. I don't mean sit there and repeat the sweet 16 verbs all day long. Tiene. We got 50 yet? Tiene. All right, let's do quiere. No, that's ridiculous. That's not acquisition. That's memorization. So output is forced. We're doing a lot of forced output. We're doing too much forced output. I've seen a lot of forced output where instructors are doing half the talking. The instructors are doing half the talking, and the students are doing half the talking in a level 1 class. In my opinion, that's too much. The instructor needs to do about 80-90% output in a level 1 class. I would say about 70% output in a year 2 class. Okay, and then it goes down from there. Students are monitoring everything. They're monitoring everything. They're not feeling the language. Monitoring means when you think before you speak. You think. I don't want to think before I speak. That's not natural. Babies don't think before they speak. I want to say something because it feels right. And when I speak Arabic,
said, اتعلمت العربي كويس. So I want to say it because it sounds right. And so when I speak Arabic, it sounds right. I don't want to monitor everything. And the reason students are monitoring is they're memorizing things, they're concentrating on grammar, they're doing verb structures, et cetera, et cetera. So reading and writing. Let me talk about reading and writing for level 5 languages. So what I've considered is, in my opinion, reading and writing a level 5 language. I'm talking about Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Arabic is too early in the first 100 hours and a waste of time. I would rather see Japanese, Korean, Chinese, and Arabic classes taught in the first year with no reading or writing. 0 reading or writing. It's just too difficult. In fact, I see our Japanese students at our school, they sit on the floor and they memorize characters and they do their homework and they memorize their homework and they memorize, and they think that's acquisition. They don't know. They really don't know. Ask them if they're doing well. Ask them, are you doing well? Yeah, I got an A. How many characters do you know? I know 675 characters. Okay, tell me about yourself in any language. Yeah, it's just too much. So like I said, I'm not a fan of reading and writing a level 5 language in the first year. I didn't do it in Arabic. I would never do it in Japanese, Chinese, Korean, or Arabic. It's just too difficult. It's too much to start reading and writing in the first year. Second year, sure. Introduce it in the second semester. How about second semester? My friend Terry Welch, she introduces it later on. So level 5 students fooled, I already said this basically, but level 5 students fooled themselves into thinking that if they could only memorize enough words and characters, they will be able to speak the language. Memorization is not acquisition, okay? The power of reading. Now I'm going to talk about reading in a language that's not a level 5 language. Reading is so super powerful. I've got another quote by Krashen. Picking up word meaning by reading is 10 times faster than intensive vocabulary instruction. I'm going to read that again because it's so important. Picking up word meaning by reading is 10 times faster than intensive vocabulary instruction. In my class, we read every day. In all of my classes, Spanish 1, Spanish 3, Spanish 4, we read every single day. In Spanish 1, we read the last 10 minutes of class. In Spanish 3 and 4, we read the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes. We do free voluntary reading, and for my Spanish 1 students, I bring the reading for them. Okay, we read every single day. We start reading, in my level 1 class, we start reading in week 8. So week 8, we all read a short novel. We all read the same novel. They don't get the choice. They don't get a choice because I don't have enough books. If I had enough books, I'd love to give them the choice. They just get the all same book. In my Spanish 3 and 4, I have tons of books. I have about 200 novels. It's free voluntary reading. They get to choose what they read, and we read every single day. Reading is so super important. I'm going to jump to this. So the best reading is free and voluntary. There's been lots of research done that says for reading to work, it has to be free and voluntary. If you quiz them on it, if you have them do a book report on it, if you talk to them about it later, it doesn't work as well. Nothing should be attached to it. So in my class, there's nothing attached, 0. So these things are input. We all know these things are input. Things are input, listening and reading. That's it. There's no other input out there. No other input. These things are not input. Not input. Homework, speaking, reading, writing, repeating, grammar, section, memorization. None of these are input, especially speaking. Speaking is not input. Speaking is fun. I have my students speak every day. I have my students get in groups of 2 and speak. Is it a waste of time? Not really. Is it input? No. Are they having fun? Sure they are. They're there to speak the language. But I know in my mind they need tons and tons of input. So when I have them get into groups of 2, I don't say, okay, you're about to waste your time, but we're going to do it anyway. No, of course, I make a big deal about it. I make it fun, so they do it together. It's fun. That's why they're there. So none of these are input. What I do in my class now. So let me tell you what I do in my class now. Not as a result of my acquiring Arabic in 1 year, but I've done a lot of these for many years. But this is what I do exactly at this point. So I do high repetition of high frequency vocab. I concentrate on the sweet 16 verbs. Every time I make a lesson plan, I've got the sweet 16 verbs next to me, and I'm thinking, okay, what verbs do I want? And I choose 3. I choose 3 sweet 16 verbs every day, and I think to myself, I'm going to concentrate on those today. And you know what happens? I never do. It never happens. I think to myself, I'm going to do these 3,
it just goes out the window because we're having so much fun. We're doing a story. I'm trying, and it just completely goes out the window. But I know if I don't practice those sweet 16 verbs, those 3 verbs, I'm definitely going to hit another 3 or 4 sweet 16 verbs. And as I said, sweet 16 verbs are easy. Is, has, wants, needs, goes, brings. You know what they are. We all know what they are. I do tons of TPR. If you don't know what TPR is, please look it up. It's commands. Every day I do TPR. Right now I have a list of about 100 words. In my Spanish 1 class, we're up to about 100 words. So I do it. I say the word, they act it out. TPRS, storytelling. I've become the storytelling guru. I do storytelling every day in my class. I love storytelling. This is my storytelling in Arabic. TPR storytelling, or TPRS, is now my storytelling with my Spanish students. Every day, the last hour of class, we do a story. It's an ask story. I won't go into TPRS in detail. I could talk about TPRS for the next hour and a half. But TPRS basically is teaching proficiency through reading and storytelling. So what I do is I do an ask story. So the other day we had Michelle Obama got in a fight with Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was wearing a bra, and he was fighting with Hillary Clinton, and just the crazy things that the class comes up with. So 90% of the story is class created. This is called co-created. So what I do is we do a story every day. My students have no idea where the story is going. I have no idea where the story is going. And I say, okay, I need an actor. I choose a different actor, different actress every day. I bring them up in front of the class. I say, is that a person, a thing, or an animal? And we just go with it. We make the craziest stories you've ever heard. And I record those stories using a microphone and my mobile phone. And I email my students the story every day. So every day after class, my students get the story, and that's their homework. Their homework is to listen to the story again. In fact, all the students get all the stories. Every story I do in all my Spanish 1 class, I have 2 Spanish 1, they get the other stories from the other class. So everybody's getting everybody's story, and they say, oh my God, I like that story about Michael Jackson the zombie. We had Michael Jackson a zombie. We had Britney Spears who was pregnant with 5 children. It's just hilarious. So if you haven't looked into TPRS, TPR storytelling, I can't say enough about TPR storytelling. The reason I love TPRS is the brain craves novelty. The brain craves novelty. I could talk about the book. I can open up Tu Mundo. We can talk about the people from Costa Rica and the people from Chile, but the students, they don't really care. When we start talking about Barack Obama getting in a fight with Hillary Clinton because she was on the back of a motorcycle with Michelle Obama, students like that kind of stuff. It's crazy. I use circling and triangling. Circling and triangling is super easy. Circling means I talk to the whole class. I'm like, what did she do? Where's she from? Did she just talk about me, or did she just talk about you? How does she know me? Oh, we work together. Oh my God. Triangling. Oh, you're a French teacher. I'm a Spanish teacher. Oh, you're a Japanese teacher. Is she a Japanese teacher or is she a French teacher? That's triangling. I'm just using 2 students back and forth. I do circling and triangling all day long. Circling, triangle, super important. Most of you probably already do it. It's wonderful input. I use myself, I use the class, constant, tons and tons of questions. Most questions they're answering yes or no. This is another wonderful quote. Oh, use circling and triangling using the same verb. Sometimes I see students, and I know they're slow processors. We all have some slow processors, okay? I'm a slow processor when it comes to musical instruments, okay? That's just the way it is. I know my slow processors. I already know who they are. I can stay on one verb long enough, and I can make that slow processor into a high processor. But I have to stay on the same verb over and over again. And again, I just can't say it. I'm like, tiene. You got it or not? No. I have to say it in a funny story. Okay, so boxing was our, I think it was Joe Biden was boxing Hillary Clinton in a hotel room 2 days ago. And I'm saying boxea. If I say boxea enough times, and I have the students act it out, I got Barack Obama, I got Joe Biden, I got Hillary Clinton boxing in class, and I'm using the word boxea, that I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get my low processing students to hear the word boxea. And I can see it in his or her eyes. They need tons and tons of repetition. And that repetition has to be fun. That repetition has to be meaningful. It has to be comprehensible and compelling. So this is a wonderful quote from my friend Blaine Ray. If you don't know already, Blaine Ray invented TPRS in the 1980s. Blaine Ray is the father of TPRS. And I go to a TPRS conference almost any year, and this is one of my favorite quotes. If you stay on one verb and turn slow processing students into fast processing students, you'll give that student the gift of fluency. If you stay on a verb, or if you go on and the student, the slow processing student, does not get it, what's going to happen? He or she's going to check out. And you're going to say, oh, well, he'll get it, she'll get it. No, our students will check out. If they don't get it, they will check out, they won't listen, and they'll be behind the whole time. That's why I work on the sweet 16 verbs. So what I typically do in my class, in the morning, the first hour, I do weekend chat. I do lots of TPR. I do special person. Special person means I just take one person, 2 people, 3 people. I sit them in front of the class one at a time, and I ask them questions about anything. Yesterday or Thursday, we did religion. I did religion. I asked them, do you go to church? Do you go to temple? Do you go to a mosque? Do you go to synagogue? No, I don't. Does anybody in your family go? Oh, yes, my grandfather, my grandmother go to a synagogue. I'm Jewish. My family's Jewish. And oh, okay. Do you walk to the synagogue? Because doesn't a lot of Jewish people, don't they walk on the Sabbath? She says, my grandmother walks, but my grandfather doesn't walk. So I'm getting all these great questions, just interesting stuff. And I create the questions before class. That's called special person. I do 2 people a day. If you have time, do 3 people a day. I never have time to do more than 2. I do a lot of vocabulary using pictures and props. I have tons of PowerPoints with every picture you could ever imagine. I've got tons of props. I don't use my props anymore because students go crazy about props. I do TPRS, plus I audio record the story each day. I talked about that already. I do a TPRS story every day. The last hour of class, all my classes, Spanish 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, and 4, I do a TPRS story every day during the last hour. They know it, they expect it, and what I do is I wear my mic, I wear my mobile phone, and I record the story every day from the minute it starts for the minute it ends. We do the story in the present and past tense, whatever it happens to be. I could mix past, mix present, and then I do the story again. I stop my phone, I pause it, and then, okay, let's go right to the past tense. They know we're going to go right to the past tense because that's what we do every day. And then I tell the story again in the past tense. Now remember, I'm not just telling the story, I'm asking them questions. Who boxed? Who had the key to Hillary Clinton's apartment? Oh my God, Twinkle Winkle had the key to Hillary Clinton's apartment? Who gave it to Twinkle Winkle? Did Joe Biden give it to her, or did Hillary Clinton give it to her? So constantly just hitting those verbs over and over and over again. And the kids, they know it, they expect it. In fact, I told them this. I say, I'm going to tell you a story. The reason is I want to hit these same verbs over and over and over again. Now, I don't do retells yet. You would think, oh, why don't you just have the students retell the story to the person next to them? They're not ready. My Spanish 3, Spanish 4, sure. Every day, every other day, I have them retell the story to the person next to them. Does that help them? A little bit. Is it input? A little bit. For the most part, we don't do any retells. After about week 8, week 9, I'll ask my Spanish 1 students to do a retell. Retell the story to the person next to you. Sometimes I tell them, tell me something that didn't happen in the story. Tell me a lie. And they're, oh, and they tell me all these crazy lies. What happened? What didn't happen? And then one of the things is, what my friend Blaine told me is, I put myself in the story. So almost every story, I become an actor in the story. And I always tell them, was it someone famous? They're like, yeah, someone famous. And I go, someone super famous, huh? They're like, yeah, someone super famous. I go, you know who it was? It was Jeff Brown. They're like, oh my God. So last week, remember Britney Spears, pregnant, 5 children? I was one of the fathers, okay? They decided that I was one of the fathers. That's right. And I said, no. I went on Maury Povich. No, it wasn't me. Maury Povich said it was me, blah, blah, blah. So I always use myself because I'm getting tons of first-person singular practice. I did this. Did he do it or did I do it? Oh, I'm the father or he's the father. Over and over and over again. So I always try to put myself in the story. Basically, we choose a student that's going to be an actor. He could be a person, place, or thing. We choose a famous person. It could be any famous person. We've had Michael Jackson Zombie. We just had Joe Biden, Michelle Obama. I choose myself, and then this is really funny, I choose a student who's actually in the class. I'm like, class, no, it wasn't Joe Biden. It was Baltazar from Spanish class. Baltazar, get up here. So it's really funny. You know what something's really funny? We choose students who are not there. They're absent for the day. That's even funnier. Because then they tell their friends, they email, they Instagram their friends, dude, you were in the story. And it's hilarious. So that's TPRS. We read. I speak about 80% of the time, lots of input. I speak 90% of the time in the target language. My students will know about 150 to 300 words by the end of the semester. Think of that. Imagine if your students came in on Spanish 1, French 1, you're like, guess what, everybody? You're going to know 150 words by the end of the semester. You're going to learn 150 words. They'd be like, I want to know 15,000 words. I'd be like, sorry, that's all you're going to get. Because it's constant repetition. We only have 75 hours. 75 hours in one semester. We actually have 85, but we have exams, stuff like that. You're going to get about, now why did I say 300? 300 are the students who actually listen to my stories every day. All my students say they listen to stories. Oh, I listen because it's their homework, right? Oh, I did the story. They write on a piece of paper. I did the story. I know they're lying. I don't care. The students who do the stories, who listen to my stories, they're going to get 300. They're going to acquire about 300 words. The ones who don't are going to about 150 words. And again, that's 3.5 words per hour. That's about it. That's all I can hope for. And I think that's wonderful. What I don't do explicit grammar instruction. Instead, I do 5-second pop-up grammar. I'm not going to talk about pop-up grammar right now, but once in a while, I'll just bust into English. I ask permission to speak English. I say like this, ¿Puedo hablar inglés? And then I speak English. I say, did you hear what I just said? Trabajé. Hear that E? Trabajé. That means I did something. And then I just continue. It's a 5-second grammar lesson. I don't want my students to monitor. I don't give written homework. I don't give any written homework. I do give the grammar pages, but you know what the grammar pages? The answers are in the back of the book. You know what the students do? They just copy the questions. They copy the answers from the back of the book. The students who want to copy, students who really want to learn grammar, they take it seriously. I don't care. They could copy it all they want. So they do have the grammar homework, but I don't count that as homework because they could just fill in the blank. What I do give them is I give them reading. My students have to read for homework, and my students have to listen to my stories for homework. So I don't give any written homework. My homework is listening and reading. I don't correct my students ever. My students are never corrected. And this is from Stephen Krashen and John Truscott. If you want to look up Krashen and Truscott, you can find it. They've done a lot of extensive research on why correction doesn't work. I don't wait to teach the past tense. I teach the past tense and the present tense verbs together from day one. My students always get past tense and present tense on day one. Even on day one of Spanish 1, I do a story in the present tense. I do a story in the past tense. We're always talking present and past tense, always. I never say, okay, this semester we're going to do present, next semester past, next semester future, next semester conditional. No, I do past, present from day one. In my Spanish 3 and 4 class, I do conditional. I do subjunctive. Of course I do those. And I tell them, this is conditional, this is subjunctive. I do 5 seconds of pop-up grammar. We read a little bit about the subjunctive too. What else I don't do? I don't force output. So I don't force output. I get students to speak. I try not to choose, super shy students. But in general, I don't force output. I'm not a fan of forcing output. I'm not a fan of me. My family's big. Your family, your family, your family. Okay, your turn, your turn, your turn, your turn, your turn. No, I know who wants to speak. I already know who wants to speak. So I choose the high processors first, and I'll go like this with my low processors. I'll just give them one little yes or no question answers. Answer yes or no, answer yes or no. The whole class knows, we know. So I don't force output. So I guess this is my last slide. Actually, I have one more slide. So traditional teaching methods. This is what traditional teaching methods do. Grammar translation, homework, vocabulary, memorization, forced output, and exams. This is language acquisition on steroids, okay? This is 2,700 words in 1 year. This is language acquisition on steroids. If you taught your own child this way, you'd be put in jail, okay? If you had a baby and you gave your baby exams, memorization, vocabulary, homework, grammar translation, I promise you, you would go to jail. You would go to the grammar jail. And that's it. There's my email address. Thank you. All right. Thank you. You've been a wonderful audience.